Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hello, Jim.
Hello, David.
We're doing this a little earlier tonight.
We are.
I feel a little bit more awake. I'm not falling asleep.
And it's an hour later in my time, so it's even better.
Well, it's Sunday night, so I usually got a stomach ache at this point from all the crap I've eaten over the weekend.
Oh, my God. Me too.
Well, today we were out doing back-to-school shopping, so we're buying clothes for the girls and that whole thing.
Oh, I have news about today as well, but we can get to that.
So everybody knows, if you follow the Facebook group, you know that I went to an open mic last night. All right, so let me set the stage here. Somebody told me there was going to be an open mic at this other place, and I missed it this week. And Nick was shaming me because he was telling me that I should be. It's Nick Bongers of Great Lakes Guitar Pickups was telling me I should be going to play more often, right? And he had told me he was going to stay on me about it. So he asked me the other day. I inquired about some stuff, and he says, "Have you been out playing?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Get out there." So this week I searched out an open mic. I didn't get to go to the one. Oh no, I remember what it was. I went to Sam. Oh, we should talk about that too. I went to the Sam Ash open mic.
Okay.
And
yeah, you got to tell me about
pitiful.
That.
Yeah, pitiful. So they have one flyer in the front of the store, right?
Yeah.
But if you know anything about Sam Ash corporate, like they advertise this, like they're doing it at all their locations, right?
Oh.
So it's supposed to be like once a week they do an open mic or a jam night, right?
Okay.
So I went in, per the flyer's instructions. There's nobody there. Two dudes behind the counter talking to two lovely young women that it was questionable why they were talking to them.
Yeah.
And one guy on stage, because they have a fake stage in there, like little prop stage.
Yep.
And one guy was on the prop stage in the front by himself, plugged into a deluxe reverb.
Yep.
Going to town. And I was like, "No, we're not going to do this tonight." So I just turned around and walked out. I was like, no, thanks.
Nope, I wouldn't either.
I want the experience. I want to be able to play like in a place where I could get experience, but I just thought there would be players there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like people that would actually be interested in playing. So, I didn't do that. So I posted in my local, we have the Chicago Area Musicians Network, which is a Facebook group. And I posted in there. I'm like, I'm looking for open mics. Like what's going on? And I posted a while back and I got a bunch of responses. So I kind of resurrected that thread. And an open mic that I've already been to before, they came back and they were like, "We're doing it this weekend on Saturday." And so I was like, "Oh, all right. Well, I'm going to that." This was Thursday afternoon, right? So Friday morning hits and I'm like, "Okay, I got this. Like, no big deal." Friday night, I did all this running on Friday. I barely got the chance to actually do anything other than dial in a couple of sounds for the Kemper. And then at night when I was sleeping, I woke up in the middle of the night and I realized, oh my God, you're going to play an open mic tomorrow. You don't know what you're playing. You're not really prepared and you're going to make a fool of yourself.
Okay.
So
That's reasonable.
I don't usually have like self-doubt like that. It's normally like I kind of go with a Viking mentality, like I will kill them all and take no prisoners kind of thing.
Yep.
But that that did not happen yesterday. So I kind of freaked out and I started having a panic attack in the morning. I got up at about 6:00 and I came into the living room and I started dialing Kemper tones with my headphones and selecting the material I was going to play, which is all my stuff. I put all the tracks on my little Digitech Jam Man. I messaged the host of the open mic. Because I try to Facebook friend everybody I talk to.
Right. Reasonable.
Musician wise. And he got back to me immediately. He's like, well, I don't have this available for you, but we could do this. You know, we kind of worked out like how it was going to work because they don't do tracks there. Normally.
Right.
And, so we got it all straightened out. I actually ordered something on Amazon to help make that work, same day delivery. It didn't show up, which is a good thing because my card didn't get charged either. So I'm like, fine, don't care.
Yep, cancel it.
Made it.
Yep.
I made it through most of the day. Went to go rehearse, and actually I liked, because I'm using the Kemper and I'm using tracks for the first time. I wanted to go somewhere where I could like do a mock setup and kind of time myself to see how long it would take to set everything up. And it took me about 5 minutes. But here's the deal: I went to my parents' house to do my mock, carried my road case in, and as I walk in the door, my mom says, I can hear her upstairs, and she says, "Hey, there's somebody here." And I thought she was talking about me, and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "No, seriously, there's somebody here, like somebody you'd like to talk to." And I hear this voice, and I'm like, that sounds familiar, but it sounded kind of like my dad, like, you know, older.
Right.
Little grizzled.
My age. Yeah.
My dad's slightly older than you are. But anyway, he's 70, I think.
Really? So your parents were
60,
older.
He's 68. He's almost 70. He's like in that era. He's like 68, I think.
So they must have been in their 30s, late 30s when you were born, or mid 30s.
Yeah, he was 37. Yeah. So, I went upstairs, and lo and behold, my guitar teacher was sitting there. Now, granted, remember, folks, I haven't had lessons in at least 6 years. So I had a moment. I was like, what the hell is he doing here? And I wasn't upset. It was just like, this is weird.
Right.
And he's sitting in the chair talking to my parents about, you know, his life situation, like changes and everything. And of course, he comes over and gives me a big hug and says hello and whatnot. And I show him my guitar and everything because it's strapped on my back.
Yeah.
And he saw my set. He came downstairs and he actually watched me set up and play, and said a lot of nice things about, you know, what it was like to teach me, and also like that I was one of his best students, and that he was so glad that he had the opportunity to like be involved in my musical development, but also my personal development. And revealed some things to me that are pretty personal that I don't want to share on the show, but I didn't really realize he understood what was going on, at the time. And suddenly, like, it all dawned on me, like, this is all supposed to happen for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I was all freaked out that morning. I wasn't supposed to go play, you know, like I was going to freak out and not go. Like, that's what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, like, this happened, and I'm like, no, I absolutely have to go. No matter how I feel about it, I have to go. So I went to the open mic. I actually sat in my car for like a good 45 minutes while I waited for everybody to show up, because I went really early to force myself to go. I ended up sitting in the back of the club for a while, and I went out to my car and got my stuff when people started showing up. I recognized a couple of the guys there from the last time I was there. It ended up being a much smaller open mic than the last one. The last one had, I think there was like 10 performers. There was 4 people total performing. You know, the main featured instruments. We had 2 drummers. We had, 3 guitar players, including myself, and a singer, who's a bar regular who often gets up and sings. So it was a really, really good night, for me to come up and do these tracks and like test the audience, right? So what was cool was the first guy got through. He's an older dude that sings kind of like folk music, and he's an acoustic player, but he's got a good voice, and he sings some really good songs, some stuff that you would expect from like the protest era and those kinds of things, but like more the rocky side of that kind of music. And he did some Eagles and some stuff like that as well. And so he got done, and then they were like, you're up next. And of course, I was like, all right, here goes nothing, which I got teased all night for my Kiesel. I took my Kiesel up there, and it's like, is that a mandolin? Everybody kept asking, is that a mandolin? No, it's not a mandolin. I'm like, a mandolin doesn't have 7 strings, it has 8. But anyway, so I get up there and I get my tracks going, and I have one of my songs actually as the the test track, and it's going, and they plug it in, and I can see people at the bar starting to come over, and I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe this will work out good. And I kind of got on the mic and I said, yeah, thanks everybody for coming over for my karaoke, and because I'm playing the tracks and all that, right. And then I went for it, and I could tell people were kind of shell shocked because I came on after the folk guy, and it was like, what is this? And the first song I knew was a little bit weaker, but it was one I needed a lot more energy for. So I structured my set around that idea. And then the second song was a song I've done called Undisclosed, which you can find on iTunes. I think there's a version of it out there. It's not a good one, and I'm about to release another version of that song, which I was actually mixing this evening. And yeah, so I played that song, and that's when people, like, I realized there was like 4 or 5, 6. I think there were 6 or 7 people that were from the bar that were not even musicians that were sitting there, like they had come over because the bar is separate from the stage area. They'd come over to watch, and as soon as I stopped, it was like, where can we get your record? And, wow. And they were yelling from the audience, like, where can we get your record? And I'm like, it's not available yet. Because I hadn't even thought about the fact that I released a version of this song on iTunes. And then I was like, thank you. I told everybody, thanks for being guinea pigs for this. And then I went for the last song, and I blew some minds, and it was pretty fun. I think everybody was kind of shocked because I played that metal song that I posted in the group, and did the harmony parts and all that stuff, the unisons. And everybody was like, what is this? It perked a lot of ears up. It's a harder rock community up there. Like, they were listening to Motley Crue and stuff. So I was kind of, I fit right in with what they were already listening to. And it went really well. I got off stage. I did have one of the hosts said something that really irritated me. He looks at me, he goes, you must spend a lot of time in the basement practicing, right? Like, yeah. I wanted to be like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Like, I have no life? Like, it's like, hate to break it to you, dude, but I'm the one with the newer car in the parking lot,
I think it just meant that you were really good.
Yeah, he could have said it that way, I'm sure. But I told him, I was like, I was here at the last one. You remember me from that? And he's like, were you the guy that played the Hendrix songs? So, I sat there and I waited. I listened to all the other performers who were there. And then, one of the hosts came up to me, the bass player. He goes, yeah, he's like, I'm going to play electric with this next guy. And he's like, I want you to play bass. Well, the drummer was out actually having a smoke break. And so he came back in, and the drummer from behind the bar came out. And apparently, one of the guys that runs the place is actually a drummer. And he might have been a patron. I thought he was behind the bar. He was really good. And then he came out and he played a couple songs. And actually the drummer played bass for like 2 or 3 songs. Well, then they start calling out the singer starts calling out songs, and he's like, look at the bass player. He's like, I can't teach him that on, the bassist turned electric guitarist. Right. And so he's like, I can't teach him how to play that on the fly. So he's like, get that guy, pointing at me. And I'm like, I don't play bass. Like, what are you talking about? But apparently I did a decent job.
Apparently you do play bass.
Yeah, because they were all like, what? Like, you don't play bass? And the guy, with the funny part was the guy comes up to me, he goes, you can play that bass with a pick. And I'm like, no, I got this. Like, I'll just play with my fingers, trust me. Because I do my own tracks. Like, I play bass on my songs, so it's not I just don't have good rhythm. So not that kind of rhythm. Like bass players have to have super tight rhythm. So it worked out that we played like 2 Billy Idol tunes, and we played like Rebel Yell, and we played I want to say it was like White Wedding or something like that, but it might have been something else. And they were, of course, everybody thinks you just ride the you just ride the root in those songs. But actually, there's a lot of riffing going on in there, especially from the bass. So I was just like trying to hold it together, and apparently they were pleased with it, even though I was out of key in certain places. And well, part of that had to do with the fact that they hand me a bass that was tuned down a half step, and then were telling me note names, so I'm playing the correct note. You know, if you say an F sharp,
right?
Like
you're playing,
it should be the second fret, right? It's the third fret on the flat, right? I believe it's actually it's the third fret on a flat guitar. So that's what I'm playing, and I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Like, what are you doing?
So, they were actually calling out, but that's actually pretty normal when somebody says that when they're tuned down. But
I'm like, don't call out note. If you're going to call out note names, just assume that I'm going to play the actual note because I know where they're at.
Right.
You know, not that, or call out the fret number if you know it's tuned down a half step. So what I was doing is I just watched the guitar player because I knew he was tuned down a half step, and I was just like trying to mirror what he was doing as best I could. But I'm not super familiar with all the Billy Idol material. Like, I've learned a couple of songs over the years, but not to the point where I would be like comfortable in the open mic jam thing doing that. Right. It was really fun to play some stuff that I'm just like totally not prepared to do. But and nobody was expecting rocket science out of it or anything. But it was a fun night. I left about midnight, came home, carried my gear in, which now I got the road case and everything. Like, that was super easy. I made everything come in one trip. And I have stairs and stuff to get into my condo. So nice. That was pretty impressive. But and I didn't wake anybody up doing it, which was even equally more amazing.
Clank, bang, bang, slam.
Right. Well, I mean, that road case I've got, it's like when it's loaded, it's like 45 pounds. So I mean, you're banging it against I banged it against the iron rail in the hallway, and you hear this dong, like all the way up the stairs, and I'm going, somebody's awake. Like, fortunately, my upstairs neighbor was already awake. He was watching TV, but I don't know. It was a fun night, and like I'm looking forward to doing it some more. But I wanted to. So the experience is one thing, right? Like, right. But I want to really talk about is how I set up things that night, because it was a totally different experience. It was part of the reason why I had so much anxiety. I was using the Kemper. I went direct. I used their like 80s era PA. It was pretty bad, and it is pretty bad. And they have like channels on the Snake that they literally don't use because there's too much static, or they hiss or whatever. Yeah. And whenever you come in, like even the PA stuff runs through that Snake, so they're like the mains will be connected via XLR to the Snake, and so if you get into the wrong channel, of course the thing will cut out, or it's a nightmare. But anyway, I could tell they weren't like super excited about having me run direct and everything, but it worked out really good. Actually, the Kemper sounded fantastic, and the tracks were, even though they were mono, I got a really good mix on stage, and I was able to like hear all my cues and stuff. Several people remarked that I had good timing, and I just laughed, and I said no, I could just hear. And the Kiesel also, like, that's a whole other thing. That's the first time I played out with that guitar, and everybody knows, if you're in the group, I've been having problems with carpal tunnel syndrome and the Kiesel. And standing up, playing the Kiesel for the 3 songs, one of which is the most demanding song I've ever written, for my wrist, and I was fine, completely flawless. In fact, I made a decision. I'm probably going to keep the Kiesel at this point, because I think it's just a question of playing position. And it just may be a guitar I can't play sitting down. I may have to stand to play a 7-string. Because I think it puts my wrist at a different angle, and I can pull the guitar across my body or push it to get my wrist straight for doing certain things. Because the problem is when your wrist curves 90 degrees, like if you put your forearm out parallel to the ground, and then you point your hand up 90 degrees so the fingertips are pointing at the ceiling, and you bend your wrist to accomplish that so your hand stays straight, guess what? That's how you wreck your wrist. And that's what I was doing, when I was sitting down, because I had to reach underneath the neck and up towards the top because of my playing position. So when I played out, I just lifted the guitar a little bit. And, when I would play those passages where I had to be a little bit more physically demanding, I'd pull the neck up in the air so that my wrist would be straighter. And that's a problem that a lot of people have with 7 strings, is that the hand position is terrible. because you have to stretch. Now I have shorter fingers, so that's a big part of that. But yeah, good experience. Thank you everybody in the group for being so supportive about it. Hopefully you guys will hear more about me playing local open mics and stuff like that, and hopefully they will be less eventful.
So I got a Digitech Jam Band for doing the same thing. Because I want to be able to
make sure you download that software and keep a copy of it.
Yep.
Who knows when Digitech's site finally disappears?
So that's what I was going to. So I have a Digitech Jam. I actually got the 4-button Digitech.
You got the big one, yeah,
brother. It's pretty much the 1-button one with
a foot switch on it.
A foot switch on it, but you can get another foot switch, which I should probably do before they go out of business, or before they're completely gone.
I think you and I might be ponying up on that one.
Sweetwater there's a guy that's got one locally, but he's selling in a package where he wants $50. I'm like, $50 for a brand new one, blowing out your ass. I don't understand what their concept for stuff is, but anyway, so what do you think about that? Digitech going under again?
So, going under again, like as in right now.
Yeah, I mean,
because in
didn't they go under before? Didn't they?
2018, they laid off the entire staff.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were acquired by Samsung. Harman Audio used to be based out of Salt Lake City. Samsung bought them. Samsung looked at the company and said, "This company is not profitable, and that there's no real value here," and so they gutted it. Apparently, Harman has some. They have some other facets of their business that Samsung was interested in acquiring. So here's the deal: people are ticked because Digitech had like turned over a new leaf. If anybody remembers the Hardware series when they came out, like that was the beginning of Digitech like starting to find their footing. And then after the Hardware series, they kind of resurrected DoD, and then all of a sudden they started coming out with these like pedals that people have been asking for years, like the Digitech Drop, and then the Digitech Whammy Ricochet. The Drop is a Whammy branded effect. Yep. And the Jam Man, as far as I'm concerned, that is the budget looper. If you want a looper with all the features for like $150, I mean, that's the one to get. And then they had the Trio, which was a huge hit. So big of a hit that they kept releasing new iterations of it within the same year. They owned Band in a Box, I believe. That was also acquired as part of that transition. So then Samsung comes in and buys them, and I think the Samsung had owned them for like a year or two, and then they decided to axe all the staff. And the pedals are now extremely difficult to acquire for shops, which that's another big issue. I'm looking for a Drop right now, and I cannot find one. Now I know the big sites still have them. I'm pretty sure I can go to Sweetwater and get
Sweetwater's got one.
I can go to Guitar Center online or Musician's Friend, and I can get one. But the point is that my local Guitar Center don't have any.
No,
but can't order them.
They can't order them. Then
Guitar Center doesn't have them. Here's what I've heard. I've heard they order them and they never show up. So it's almost as though, it's almost as though Digitech is no longer producing effects, which has been no official word whether Digitech was going to close their doors or not. But I have a feeling they are. I have a feeling that company is now officially defunct. And so I think this, Digitech closing its doors thing, like I know some people have been echoing that lately. I think it's just they've gotten rid of all their new old stock. And so now what's left is what's left.
I looked into so with Digitech in the position it is, I looked into a Digitech Jam Band stereo phrase sampler looper, Jam Band, the full 4-button one.
Yeah.
That I got it for the price of actually just a little lower than the XT, which is the single button. And they both come with the ability to put all the music on them. You can stick a SD card in there. which most of us have an SD card laying around from our days of needing it with other.
Yeah, I mean
Camera or
it's a micro
phone.
SD. In the
Well,
one I have, just
it's
FYI, I don't think they're all
it's a
full
regular
size.
SD, the full size. But I got a
Mhm.
micro, but it plugs into it's
Yeah,
got
the
a
adapter,
adapter
right?
for the size, and everybody's got one of those lying around. Again, if you had a phone or a thing back then, a camera,
Yeah,
you
chances
were
are you got one
probably
laying around
lying
somewhere.
around. Yeah, and it came with the power supply. It came with everything for $130. I ordered it used from Guitar Center, and it's like brand new. Had the box, had the thing, had everything. I was like, cool. So all I got to do is add the foot switch. The foot switch right now is $50. Could probably get a discount on it if I talk nicely to my rep tomorrow.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting the foot switch myself because I
Yeah.
think it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
For what I'm doing right now, so I'm going to have the tracks going probably for a while. I'm going to be adding some new material. I would like to get an hour set going. Right now I'm at like 10 minutes with 3 songs. A little over 10 minutes, 12 minutes, but, I'd like to get a full set, and it's a perfect tool for that. But here's the thing. This is my ultimate end goal, and this is why the Jam Man may expire for me. And that is that, I want to do a multimedia show. So we're
You
involved
might
in,
want to consider the big looper
yeah, well,
from
so
what do you
does it,
call it?
that's a good idea, but I'm going to be playing back probably off of an iPad or something for long. I have a projector
Oh,
sitting next to me right now that
cool.
I acquired through work, and I want to put it to use as part of a stage show. So the idea would be that I'd have a small projection screen and the projector, and then I would have video synced to my backing tracks that would play while I play.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. So now I don't know about the what do you call it? But I think, look here. Yeah, so the head rush has MIDI, which would control the lighting and
I'm not really looking to do like full scale lighting. And that may be something that comes on down the road. But if I'm running all my backing tracks off a computer, I'm going to be running it out of a sequencer anyway. So I should be able to do all that stuff from the computer. And I'm just basically playing along at that point.
right.
I will probably need to get in-ear monitoring going for that to happen, but that's like an end goal. That's like a year or two away before I finally accomplish that. There's going to be a lot because I have to edit all the video. Think about it. It's an hour of video that's got to play. And then I have to have start, stop, MIDI control on the floor. I have to have either a laptop or an iPad that's doing all of the heavy lifting with a sequencer app in it that's gonna play the track and the video at the same time, or like play the video and then give me a click. It's not gonna be something that's gonna be immediately doable. It's gonna take me a while, but I think it's a good skill set to gather, because I think these kind of experiences are becoming more doable for like the low level people, the low level musicians, people like me who really don't I don't even have a band. I mean, because the technology is just as much as you want to like grasp it, as much as you want to get your hands around it and choke it. Wow, that's a really awful metaphor. But the point is you can control it, and you can make it, you can make it do what you want if you know how to do it. And the know-how is so easy now that, I mean, it's just literally just getting the right software together and getting the right hardware together.
Yep.
So, I think these experiences, going back to what I was originally saying, I think these experiences are going to become more commonplace. And I also think it's very forward thinking, and people will remember me for doing it, and that will get me more money to come back for further gigs. I was thinking actually about Nick Bongers and his, outfit, cause he's doing the Kiss tribute, and they put on the whole stage show, and they have the, LED light up guitars and the walls of Marshalls and all that stuff. And I think that there's a spectacle element that most of your local bands lack. And having a projection show to go alongside what I'm doing is it's gonna fix that problem. Because it's going to give people the spectacle. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to carry the musical weight that, a full band will. But if I do something like this might actually bridge that gap. You could theoretically have a drummer behind me on the screen,
Yeah, this is something that you could have like a robotic drummer The truth is that there's so much going on now musically with so many people that what you're doing is becoming the norm
Mm-hmm.
for shows. I spoke with a jazz musician who she plays, and they have been telling her you have to play the tracks because we need more musicality. She's an excellent pianist, but they want more musicality. Her problem is that she's just playing piano.
They want bigger arrangements. They don't
and they
want
want
just
right.
piano.
They want
right.
horn sections. But they want you to. Here's the beauty of it. So there's places like Aldi locally. Okay,
Yeah.
Aldi is a grocery store for people who don't know. And for openings and for special events, they're paying jazz musicians come in and play the tracks, hundreds of dollars, and they come in and play for a few hours.
We
you're
have
making like a week's pay.
We have a chain of grocery
Go
stores
ahead.
here called Mariano's,
Mhm.
and Mariano's is a relatively new chain that was born out of the collapse of the Dominic's food chain here in Chicago area. Dominic's closed their doors, and all of a sudden, Mariano's starts cropping up in their old locations, and they want to be an upscale food store. So their whole thing was
Right.
like they brought in grand pianos,
Like a Wegmans. We call
Yeah.
Wegmans. Yeah.
They brought in grand pianos and they hired people to come in and play them. And they're not playing the tracks, but like you'll be shopping on a Sunday and there'll be some guy up front, like, you know, doing boogie woogie.
Right.
And you're on, what? Like, I remember one time I walked in super early in the morning. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And there was a dude up front and he was playing the theme from Hellraiser. And I was like, that made my day. I was like walking through there and I'm like, yeah, like I love that movie. Like
a movie. Okay. Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. So here's the thing that you got to think about. And that is when you're looking at your audience, okay, your audience, what is your audience? Well, if you're able to do that kind of thing, and you can be hired to do something like that, to go into grocery stores and stuff, the grocery store's got to set itself apart. It used to be bars did that, right? Bars were setting themselves apart, and they were setting themselves apart by having great live music. There's a few bars in this area.
You know, yeah, I mean, we did themes here.
Yeah, and there's a few bars in this area that do live music, and they do it right. And by hiring good bands, paying well, and doing it right, they set themselves apart. They're always packed. Their parking lots are always full. There's always people going there. And then you look at the bar that's hiring the DJ. It's like whoop whoop whoop, and for the most part, that place is empty. And it's unless it's a really good DJ in like a really an area that is looking for that kind of thing. And so if you go down the beach strip,
go ahead.
Yeah, you go down our beach. Like okay, so I've gone to for work. I've gone to Miami and I've gone to Kemper, and I've gone up and down the East Coast. I've gone up and down the West Coast. And one of the things I noticed is the bars that have music, it's either really good live bands that are really locked in, really tight, really good, or it's a DJ with a lot of personality, not some person who sits looking at Facebook behind their phone, unengaged with okay, there's the lights, there's the music, and it's a really popular song, and there's that one drunk person,
enjoying themselves,
right? Enjoying themselves. They're like, woo! Arms in the air, and then there's like 3 drunk people watching them, making fun of them, and then at the place that's got the really good stuff, whether it's a DJ that's or the other. But now there's a lot of beach resorts now, though, that are doing what you're doing. They're bringing in a solo artist. It's cheaper, but it's live music, and it's even though it's to tracks, it's live music. Now there's musicians who will argue all day. It's live music, tracks, it's tracks.
I mean,
the truth of the matter is, as long as there's a live element. Go ahead.
Personally, doing this is a compromise for me. Like I don't normally want to do this. Like this is something that is coming about because I just don't know people, and I don't know that I have met people that can play some of the stuff that I want to play.
Right.
not without,
And you've written this stuff.
Yeah, and that's a big challenge here. Like I explained to him last night, I was like, I don't think you guys want to play a song that has an 11/8 time signature for like 8 bars, and then 7/8, and then ends with like 3/4 and 6/8. Like, like I don't think you guys necessarily want to do that. And they came up to me afterwards. They go, "Was that the song with all the time changes?" And I go, "Yeah." And they couldn't even detect it. But I was like, I'm not going to take that chance, in a normal thing, because it just wasn't like, it didn't feel odd. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you get those odd time signatures that are like, feel like it's natural. And that's kind of what was going on there. But, that was my concern. Like walking into that situation, I'm going, there's just no way that the songs I can play, these guys are going to be able to pick up and just do it. You know what I mean? And I can't,
Yep.
I'm not going to sit there and try to explain like one of the choruses, like A minor 11, like, G7 major, G major 7 flat 5 or something like that. Like, and then a 13 chord. He's like, most people don't even know how to play a 13 chord, let alone know the right voicing or whatever. So it was just one of those things where it's like, I'm just not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to put them through it because it's going to make them feel bad. And it's going to make me feel bad too. But I don't see playing the tracks as being the same level of musical experience. It's like a gray area. Seeing a band, and I was thinking, Mark Miller, YouTube guy, right? Guitar player. Yeah. So he's an Ibanez artist, I believe that's his name. He has these videos online right now. You can watch him and this band play like a 30-minute Pink Floyd medley. And the reason why I bring this up is because that, to me, seeing 4 guys in a room do that in one take is music, right? Seeing me do karaoke to tracks, it's a means to an end, but it's not where I'd want to be. Like, ideally, I'd want to have the multimedia show and actual like musicians backing me up, and hopefully I'll meet some people that can actually accomplish that for me. But right now, I don't know anybody, so that's gonna be a real challenge. But that's the thing. It doesn't mean it isn't art, and that's why I said that's a multimedia experience at that point. Like, there's some it's definitely a performance art, but it's not necessarily focused on being just music at that point.
Right.
I had some comments, like you're talking about like the DJ thing. The competition is so stiff here in Chicago that if you, and at least in my estimation, the places I've gone, things I've seen, if you sit on your phone and you're a DJ, you ain't coming back. Like, it's just not going to happen. And I've seen situations where, they're kind of phoning it in, and it's like, you can tell the club owners are like, no, we're not doing that.
Okay, so
like,
so I live in a resort town. Well, near a resort town. The problem is, once you get away from the beach, the further you get from the beach, the more bars it's almost like they're the ones phoning it in. They've just given up hope.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, whatever.
We have the place I was at last night is clearly like an end of the rope bar. They are making money, but just enough money to keep the doors open. And I was actually kind of surprised that they've stayed in business as long as they have, because it's been a dive like that for a really long time. Now, the place has changed hands a couple of times. But that's a whole other, ball of wax to start talking about, club ownership and all that stuff, and it is relevant. I think that's another topic we should put away in our bin for talking about another show, because the bar climate is changing. And let's face it, the vast majority of us and our listeners are probably bar players. And I mean, I'm sure you've all felt how that's changing. So yeah. There's always it's winter time, so it's not as good, and blah blah blah. And we could talk for hours about that. Winter, summer, that type of thing, especially where you live and what the best climate is for for music. So speaking of which, I know I've been the person that talked about praise and worship. So today I went and I met with some people to possibly be a worship leader at a local church. And that's and those of you laughing right now. I'm not laughing. I know Jim's a good dude, like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We all sin somewhat. Jim maybe
Well,
more
yeah,
than
that's-
others.
Yeah. Well, that's no. Yeah.
I'm teasing. I'm not judging.
I know.
you.
I know.
Let me get my stones.
We all get judged. Yeah, exactly. No one is allowed to stone anyone until I blow this whistle. Um, so the place is interested, and I would be a 1099, which I don't know if it's going to be worth my time. But I did go, and I did ask, and it looks like something I might take up at least for a few months or a year.
You know what? If anything, it's good experience. Gets you out of the house. You'll have the best audience you've ever had in your life because everybody will be paying attention to you.
I'd be writing all the charts. I'd be the worship leader.
Yeah, exactly. Which means you would also be help selecting music and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I don't know how immersed you are in that culture. And that's something I think is a relevant discussion here. It's a culture unto itself in the sense of the music, and like there's so many subgenres and stuff. You know, there are two forms of music that are like this. Like, so you got, and these are not them, right? So you've got rock, which has its own little facets. There's like progressive rock and there's blues rock, but there's a couple, right? There's not like a million. And then you have like blues, which has like Delta blues and like, you know, and then there's jazz, which has like, you know, acid jazz and bop jazz, and they all have their little subgenres. But then you have metal, which has like its own, they're not even subgenres. They're completely different. Like you take gent and compare
They're
it to
genres
stoner
on
metal,
themselves.
or take stoner metal and compare it to like black metal. You know, they're just completely different things. Like they're completely opposite ends of the spectrum. The only things they have in common are like the instruments are pretty much the same. Like you'd have drums and bass and guitar and maybe a synthesizer and a vocalist, right? Praise and worship is like that. And I know that there are some trends, and the really popular praise and worship stuff right now sounds a lot like U2 and that kind of stuff. But there's country gospel. It's everywhere. Think about your Dolly Parton gospel type stuff, and
Just say that goes back to the days I would listen to Elvis.
Yeah,
Sing gospel.
I was just gonna say there's like that
Johnny
encompasses
Cash.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Jim Neighbors.
And then there's like I'm having a moment. I can't think of the guy's name. Phil Keaggy. Like that's a whole other type of Christian music. And then there's Christian metal. Like I have a cousin who was in a Christian metal band for a while, called Blood Covenant. And there's Striper and that kind of stuff too. It really is just like metal in the sense that there are just completely different genres of this stuff.
You see this right here?
What is that?
This is a USB stick.
Oh my gosh, he's got a guitar USB stick, folks. It looks like a Stratocaster, sort of.
It's somebody gave it to me,
but it's pooping the little leads.
Yeah, it's pooping the leads for the USB. This has 2,800 different songs for the Christian
praise and worship,
music, praise and worship. 2,800 praise and worship songs. They go from way back to now.
All right, so I'm gonna share my P-Dubs moment with you guys. I was attending a church here locally, a community church, which is a part of a missionary thing, and part of the reason why we stopped attending is because every time we'd meet people that we liked that work for the church, they'd leave. So it was like, what am I doing here? You know, it was like, and the message would change. Like that was part of the issue, is like every time that would happen, the message would change. But
and you're like, how can the message change?
It wasn't.
That's what I would feel.
It's just it's a little bit the interpretation.
Can the message change?
But like I was always making my own message anyway, because I'm gonna be frank, like I don't study the good book the way that other people study the good book. I have read it cover to cover. I have different versions, and I'm probably closer to a scholar on it than most folks are. But nevertheless, that's the way I do everything. Like if you guys haven't noticed, I like to examine things with a magnifying lens. But I went to this church, and I knew the worship leader that was doing like maybe a quarter of the worship stuff. And he's an older guy. He's actually my best friend's dad. and he was really into Striper and stuff like that. And I gotta say, their worship music was the best, because you'd go in and you'd never know what to hear, like what you'd hear, like what he had selected and what he had prepared for a given message. So it was cool. Then the other guys would come in and it was like YouTube, and I was like, granted, that's not the reason we're going to church, but it's nice to have that, and it helps draw folks in. And so,
Yeah.
Actually, I think I have an interesting question. Since this is such a very specific topic, and I know that not everybody's Christian, what other cultural or religious groups use music as a form of entertainment that's done in the same way that Christian music is, in the sense that they use it as part of the ceremony of it, right? But it also draws people in, and it's meant to engage in a different way, and it's not necessarily meant to make money. If
Right.
Jim, even if though you were getting paid for this, you're not being paid to make money for the church,
No.
because they could come and say you're terrible, and they're not going to throw money in the coffers, but you're still going to get paid.
Right.
So,
Matter of fact, that's probably the case.
I
am terrible.
it's not what I meant, but
They're there to save. We are here to save him, save his soul. This guy needs some saving.
Well, and that's a big component of taking those kinds of rules on for people who are not necessarily that religious. When you go into those kinds of situations, you suddenly become that way, because you have to put yourself in the mindset of everyone else. And and I know people who've had breakdowns because they have made that transition, and they're suddenly realizing the life they've been leading is not kosher with what they're being expected to do here.
Yep.
I honestly, Jim, I think it would be a good thing for you, just because you're going to get a lot of practice. It gives you a goal and a mindset. You've still got other gigs, and it's Sunday morning gig. You do that in addition to other things, which is, I think, part of the reason why that's so attractive to so many people, is it gets you,
Right.
It makes sure that you're practicing and you're actually learning stuff that you need. But it also, in the case of many churches, you get a little bit of money and you get the tax break to buy certain pieces of gear and that kind of thing. That in and of itself, I think for a lot of people is hugely beneficial. But me, I mean, I don't care about the tax break. To be honest with you, we make enough money that, dude, you've seen the amount of gear I bought. I'm stupid when it comes to this stuff. I may be broke, but I always have the stuff I want,
Yeah.
But notice I did not say need.
I was going to say that. So I got to play a Kemper stage.
Nice
yesterday.
transition there.
Yes. And I liked the Kemper stage. I only had about 4 minutes with it. And this is the thing that really ticked me off. So this was our local mom and pop. All right. Now, you were talking about the Sam Ash open mic thing. So this mom and pop, back in the day, back in the 80s, they used to have a stage. And they would do shows once a week. And they were showcases. So they would showcase a band. It was really good. It was really now they don't do any of that stuff. Yet they still have that stage. So this is where the Kemper is sitting. There's a Kemper and a Helix, and two of the Bose type systems, and an Evo or EV FRFR in the middle.
Okay.
So he's got me coming through the EV FRFR. Not bad. Sounded all right. Kemper was really cool. It had its standard stuff in there. And the guy said, "Do you need any help?" I said, "No, I'm all right. I can figure this out. And if I can't, I don't want it." Right. So I sit down. Easy for me to dial up. I dialed up a clean signal. Dialed in a great clean amp. Dialed in a really dirty amp. Dialed in a Gilmore thing. I knew what to expect from a Gilmore thing. A lot of ethereal.
How easy was it to use?
Super easy. That's what I was saying. I have never touched a Kemper, folks. Not a Kemper head toaster head. The rack unit, none of it.
Didn't take me long
Never
to learn
touched
it
it.
either, but I did. The first time I played with it, I fumbled. I was like, what am I doing here?
Yep. I was able to dial a little gain, dial gain out, dial some stuff in, play around with some effects, got the tuner, tune the guitar. Which I'll say I tried the 66, the Fender 66.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my 2 cents on both. I'll do the 66 first. I wasn't impressed. I wanted to like it. I wanted to love it. And I was okay with it. It was heavy. It was really heavy for a Fender that looks like a Stratocaster.
Funny you bring this up because I played one too.
Yeah, probably weighed another 1.5 pounds. The neck was beefy, rounder than I expected. It was okay. I could get used to the neck, although I don't think I would want it for a lot of like really bendy stuff. I can kind of see why this one isn't flying off the shelves the way the last one did, the Meteora, because this one it's everything else was good. I like the sound. I love the, I could dial it. It was okay, but I didn't expect it to be so darn heavy. I mean, it was really heavy. And even the guy, when I grabbed it, he goes, "Pretty heavy, huh?" Yeah, it's pretty heavy. That was really, I mean, it was heavy Les Paul
The
heavy.
one I played, I think, was 12 pounds. It was
this thing
ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm looking up to see what
It was. It had to be 12 pounds. It was. I'm looking at it was the Daphne Blue one, and
Yep.
I like the color. I liked.
Oh, I love.
I actually
Daphne
liked
Blue.
the control layout where things were positioned. What I didn't like where the 5-way was at. Okay.
Yeah, it was in a kind of a weird spot.
Oh, we'll get to that here in a minute because I saw somebody do something last night that I thought was really funny. But the 5-way didn't like. I don't like the trem on it. Like, get rid of the 6-screw bridge on guitars that are not vintage guitars. The 66 is not a vintage guitar. It's a vintage-like guitar, right? So just put a 2-post on it. In all honesty, there's just no reason for it. And the other thing is, Fender has still not figured out we don't want that heel. Like that big block heel. Like, what? Here's a new guitar design, which is based on old guitar designs, albeit, right? But it's got a giant block heel. You didn't have to do that.
Well, okay, so for the heel, that's part of the look because of the fact that it's a shrunken Fender.
I know,
bass,
I know,
right?
I know.
So it wouldn't look like a bass. It wouldn't look like a 66 Precision if it wasn't with a big fat heel.
You know what I really hated? The pickups.
It didn't have to be so thick, though. They could have thinned that out a bit. That guitar is this thick.
Yeah,
and folks who can't see my
it's about
finger,
2 inches.
It's a
inch and a half.
Yeah, it's about an inch and a half, an inch and a quarter, 1 inch and a half. That thing is really thick.
Well, that's why all Stratocaster and Telecaster heels are that way. And I'm not asking them to change on the Strat and Tele, and I'll tell you why. Because on those guitars, and even the Jazzmaster Jag-Stangs, like they're vintage guitars, they shouldn't change the heel because it's part of the sound of those instruments. Like if you take off a bunch of material from a heel, it'll start to thin out. And you can actually cause other problems, which is why they've remained with those thick, heels over the years. And the Fender hasn't played too many games with changing them. I think, what is it, the Elite series now has a different heel on it. They've changed it so it's like rounded or something. Which great, right? Like that's the kind of change you want to see in an Elite instrument. But what got me was that I didn't like the pickups. That was my biggest problem with guitar. And the heel, like, take it or leave it. If you're into that sound, yes, you want the heel. I'm into the point right now where I'm like, it's got to be playable. If it's not totally playable, I don't want it. So for me, that was just like a turn off. But I know other people would be fine with that. I don't know. It was okay. It's not winning any awards. The price on it was ridiculous. I mean, $900.
And the weights
for
on Sweetwater vary as widely as 2 pounds.
Yeah.
So from 613 to 813, which is
the one I played
ridiculous.
Was it's like a brick. I think and I'm
sure there are heavy ones.
You know what I think it is, Jim? I think it was just I think it also is like where the weight is carried in the guitar. Because if it's carried further back, it's going to appear heavier. You know what I mean? And those bodies are real long. So even if it is only like a 7-pound body, it's still going to be really heavy because you're going to be feeling it in a different place. So I tried something this week. I went and I tried a cutlass. I played one Friday after work. And
I didn't get to finish my mom and pop story though. So
go ahead, finish. We'll talk about we can talk about the cutlass after this.
All right. So like I said, I got about 4 minutes. And you're thinking 4 minutes. It's not very, very, very long.
You don't need much with the Kemper.
Well, yeah, but
it's like a religious experience.
So I really wanted to. Well, I wanted to do that. Then I was going to grab a Strat like mine and try it out. Here's the thing that kind of ticked me off. So after 4 minutes, guy walks over. He goes, "Oh, I don't want to be rude." Now he's got a kid that's been sitting over since I was in the store. That's been playing another amp for out of tune. By the way, he was playing out of tune for God knows how long. And of course, Daddy was ready to buy him whatever he wanted. You could see some very expensive, badly spent money going out the door here. And he goes, "Well, I don't want to be rude, but there's a guy coming in that wants to buy the stage."
Then sell it to him when he gets there.
Then sell it to him when he gets here. Number one, and number two, he's going to buy it anyway. It's the reason he's coming to you is because you're the only one that's got it in stock.
All right, can I say something?
So he's going to take.
Can I say something about this? Like
that pissed me off.
This guy's coming in to buy the stage. Why is it out on the floor then? You are a bad business owner. When I buy something in advance, like when I call up Good Time and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to buy this," it's not on the shelf when I get there.
Yeah, it's already in a box, ready to go.
Yeah, like seriously.
So,
So did he take a phone call while you were there? I mean, BS.
No.
You know what it was? The guy was like, "Well, you're not going to buy it. I don't want it to be scratched up, so nobody else will buy it." Shut up.
And you can't scratch this. Well, you could.
You could, but shut up.
A key. If you keyed it like a car, but
fine. Guess what? You lost my business. I would have pulled all the money out of my pocket and I'd have been like, "Look at all this. You ain't getting it," and then walked out.
Yeah. Well, I have the money to buy it. I'm waiting.
I know
for another reason, but I have the cash to buy it.
Well, I know
now.
That's my point, though. Like I just don't like mom and pop attitude today, where it's like,
no,
they assume everybody that comes in the store is coming in to kick tires, and that's not how you sell product. Like, first off, yes, I get it. There are some people that will come in and abuse stuff, and that's why you put your $3,000 guitars up higher and make people ask before they play them, because you got to find out if they're serious. But you can't do that with everything, and it's not like you got to be careful about how you treat your customer too. And if Jim's there and he's playing through something, don't come over and tell the guy to stop. It shouldn't have been out there to begin with if you didn't want him playing it.
Right.
It just
ticked me off. So I went to Guitar Center.
I know. I've been on both sides of that fence. I've seen some people do some dumb stuff too. So I'm kind of in like limbo on that. But
yeah. So I went to Guitar Center right afterwards because I was like, yeah, these guys, and either one of them is going to order me in the equipment I want,
right?
Because they didn't have the Daphne Blue 66. So if I was going to get it, I was going to get it in Daphne Blue. And it just irritated the shit out of me that they would do that. They're not going to give me any discounts.
No.
I've been in there before. And so it's like, if you're going to do that, you're going to try to sell me that, and you're going to try to sell me that EV FRFR.
Well, and that's the other thing is the mom and pops like that. They remember people who come through the door. So they know you've been in there, and they know you've probably bought stuff from them at some point, and they still treat you like filth. It's ridiculous.
I bought 2 Les Pauls from them.
Yeah. Dude, I that's what drives me crazy. The places I go, the places I go now are the places I go because they don't treat me like dirt. Like that's what ticks me off. That's why I don't like Guitar Center, because I'm just a face in the crowd. Like, and unfortunately, I get it. Like, there's a lot of dudes that walk into Guitar Center will drop $3,000 or $4,000. But, at least at a mom and pop, like, I feel like my money is actually going towards something, and they feel like, that if they foster me well enough, they will make a sale. And I agree. They will.
Yeah. And I have the exact opposite in my area.
Right.
That's what's funny. I go to Guitar Center and I'm not just a name. They know me. hey Jim, Mr. Woodard, they don't have to ask me my phone number anymore. They treat me with respect. I get a discount. I don't know. Maybe it's got to do with the way I talk to them, but I can tell you this. So the mom and pop is run by local. They're both run by local musicians, but our mom and pop is run by the local musicians who are like this.
Yep. And that's a big part of the problem, is that there is an elitist attitude. And it's like, okay, be elitist. I'm not spending my money here anymore. And they continue to do it. And guess what'll happen? Eventually they'll have to close their doors. That's right. And I've seen it happen here. I mean, there was a place called Fat Tone Guitar, and like there's some other places like that here that were like, oh, we cater to a certain class of musician, and they had attitude problems. And guess what? They're all closed. There's another place where it was by appointment only. Guess what? They're closed. The guy's running out of his garage now. If you want to come down to his quote unquote showroom, you have to call ahead, and he sends you over to his house.
I've been to one of those.
Yeah. It's not like the one that you've been to, because I know the one you've been to. This is not like that. This is like a guy that bought a lot of inventory.
A little more seedy.
He bought a lot of inventory with the intention of selling it out of a shop, and then had the shop for a while and realized he couldn't pay rent. And so now he's back to a day job, and that's why you have to make an appointment, because he's not available during the day. It's that kind of thing. But look, that's a valid way to sell stuff, I guess. But it's mostly just because he's sitting on inventory. But yeah, we've seen these mom and pops. Like, everybody knows a mom and pop store that is closed because of bad business practices. It may not be a music mom and pop, but most of them probably are, because that's what we tend to, gravitate towards buying. There was a piano store near me where they would not sell anything under retail. Suggested retail. That's about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. That's where I took lessons. And I bought my first guitar from them too, but it was on sale. They were trying to blow them out. And so I don't think we paid very much for it. I didn't buy it. My parents bought it, but it was not, I think it was under $200, which 20 years ago was, that was a good price. But yeah, they were a Fender dealer, and all of the Fender stuff they had was like 5 to 7 years old, and they had no desire to bring anything new. I remember a buddy of mine wanted to buy a bass, so I knew they had a bass in there that had a chip in it, and like the paint was peeling off the back of it, and there was a big area where it was missing. They would not do him a deal.
Wow.
They would not do him a deal on a P bass. And I was like, are you kidding me? And here's the other thing. They bought in with Fender, and I don't think they even had a dealership anymore. They bought in with Fender, and they did not carry anything Squire. They had nothing Squire 10, 20 years ago. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And when that place closed, they had nothing but garbage inventory, and somebody local bought it. He actually used to work at the shop, and he opened up a shop, and he was closed in 3 years because it was all junk. Nobody wanted it. He couldn't get a distributorship from anybody else. And the piano business must have been what was keeping them alive, but even that was hugely over expensive. They were selling a lot of sheet music. They didn't have a technician.
That's really where the music, the money is in the piano shop.
0 technicians.
And now sheet music is no longer.
Yeah. So, a lot of the shops that I've seen survive from that period, it's all about who's working in your back, like in the back, doing your technician work.
It is.
And I know that some of the stores around here, if their technician left and went somewhere else, they'd close. So, I don't know. It's just like that whole area segment of our industry is just so messed up right now. And it's almost as bad as the bars. And it's something we could spend an entire episode talking about.
Well, again, you get to where if they've given up already, then you don't stand a chance.
Right.
You really don't.
Right.
Because they are not going to put any effort into this.
Right.
They're going to sit down and they're going to go, whatever, you're either going to buy it or you're not. I'm not worried about it. I'm going out for a smoke break. Let me know when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't have to be the other salesperson's like, you really want that, right? You want to buy that right now, right? We got a great deal going on right now, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
I think the best places are kind of hands
here's that.
off.
Yeah, but they're hands on. What people need to do is they need to know how to read. A good salesperson knows how to read a
Yeah, if
person
they have
because
questions
some
or
people
like
want
they
help.
look like they're
Right,
perplexed, like chances are you
right.
might want to go over and
You
talk
got
to
any
them.
questions?
Yeah.
And if because I know plenty of people who get online and they go, oh, I hated that place. And they kept trying to tell me what to do, and they kept trying to tell me how to use the equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because you didn't know how. But there are some people who do know how, and you have to be able to read those people.
What bothers me is when you walk in a place and they like it, you get the pretty woman thing where they're like, you have no business being in here. Now,
Yeah.
granted, I have seen people that have no bit like coming into a music store, have no business coming in and pulling off $3,000 guitars, scratching the crap of them, scratching the crap out of them with their rings and their chains and whatever, and then hanging it back up and walking out. Like, you're like, what are you doing here? I've seen dudes come in and rehearse in the store. Their whole like, two guitar players come in and they're playing like their leads and stuff together, and you're going.
They were at Guitar Center the other day. I saw those two guys.
Yeah.
They were at Guitar Center just the other day.
For real. I saw a guy, I think I've told this story on the show before, but it was Sam Ash in the synthesizer department back in the day when, some of these synths had like either floppy disks or USB drives. And I think it was floppy disk. I think that's how long ago this was. But the dude was like in the back, like sequencing on a Yamaha Tyros or something. Oh my
God.
No, actually I take it back. It wasn't. It was in the pro audio department. He was recording. He was like putting together his sequence thing, in Pro Tools or whatever, and then dumping it out to a CD or a thumb drive so he could take it home.
Oh my God.
I was like, for real? Like, they let you do that? And that kind of stuff is like what you don't want going on. And like, I get it. There's a line there. So anyway, you tried the Kemper stage. You like it. It's probably going to happen eventually. You didn't like the 66 as much.
No, I don't think I'd spend the money.
Who do you think the 66
not on a new one?
Who do you think the 66 is really for?
Offset guys. I don't know. I think
it's kind of an offset thing. I think it's also a collector's thing.
I honestly think it's a collector thing. I honestly do.
So I'm kind of coming to the realization that I'm not really interested in vintage guitar designs anymore. I think it's just my play style is part of it. Like, I'm looking for stuff that's like more higher performance than say your typical run of the mill Stratocaster. And that's not to say that, there aren't vintage instruments that I would love to own, but I just feel like I haven't found anything that has been made, prior to 1980 that would be kind of in my ballpark. Just the way that they're laid out and the way that the appointments are done and all that kind of thing. Like, I'm not looking for aesthetic stuff. I'm looking for, playability stuff. And so, of course I got G&Ls already, which makes this next, little story here probably not that surprising to people who know their instrument manufacturer history. But I went to Guitar Center and I tried out a Music Man Cutlass, RS hum single. Had a bird's eye maple neck, roasted, and I liked it. I now initially when I walked away from the guitar, so these are $2,000, right? So it's probably $300 more than I would pay for another G&L at this point. And I walked away from it initially being like, I don't understand some of the design appointments, and I still don't necessarily understand them, and kind of poo-pooing and being like, no, I would never buy this guitar. But I'm kind of like walking away from it now and thinking more and more about it. I'm like, it'd have to be the right one, and it would have to be the right price, which means I'm probably going to be looking used. But I would own one. Like, I think this would be a good fit for me. So here's the deal. HSS, that's like almost a requirement for the next guitar, probably. It's going to be HSS or HH, right? I got to have a humbucker in the bridge. That's required. I'm a big maple neck fan. Roasted or unroasted doesn't make a difference to me anymore. I think roasted maple necks are probably a little bit more stable. That's what people seem to say. I can't really detect a tonal difference. I know people like, oh, they look better or whatever. I don't really think that there's even any difference in that regard to me. I think it depends on the color, like the contrast option. This is one of those few things where I'm probably making myself sound really stupid because I just don't hear a real tonal difference there. I will say this much. I like the feel. It's almost like a tung oil kind of feel on the Music Man guitars. The one I played, what got me immediately, I had already kind of like gone through the spec sheet and I was like, well, it's got a buffer. So this thing has what they call some like noiseless circuit in it, right? Which is a circuit board that's inside the control cavity that is supposed to silence the single coil pickups. So it also changes the output level slightly so that they're all even, right? So that's why I'm like, that's a buffer. That's not just a silent system. Like, I haven't seen the circuit. I don't have a schematic of it, but I'm reasonably certain that it's a buffer as well. So I didn't try any pedals with it. It's going to basically make half of my fuzzes useless to own one. So it's kind of one of those, I don't know whether I really want to do this or not type situations. But what I will say is this, the ceramic humbucker in it sounds great. With that circuit. And I played it through a variety of amps. I played it through an 800. I played it through a Deluxe Reverb 68 reissue, with a Celestion A type in it. I played it with, what else was there? Fender Twin, pair of JCM 800s, a 5150. So I like went through all the amps that were sitting in the Platinum room, at the Guitar Center. And it's the first time I've actually had them unlock something for me to play it.
Yeah.
That was interesting, but, body, no arm contour, which is a strange omission, right? But the whole guitar is rounded, so it's really kind of not necessary.
Yep.
And it gave the guitar a more Telly-like feel in some ways because there's no arm contour. Very comfortable, very good playing guitar. Couple of things I didn't like, didn't have jumbo fret, like it was medium. They are stainless steel, which is, that's basically going to be a requirement from now on. And, yeah, other than that, like, so the buffer is an issue. Fret size was kind of an issue walking away from it. And then I looked at the bridge. I don't mind the Ernie Ball tremolo system, the Music Man tremolo system, whatever you want to call it. But on this guitar, it's decked. There's no way to pull up. That's a strange omission from a guitar like that, right? So you look at the Majesty that's on the wall, pull up, right? No problem. I think a couple of the other models using a similar tremolo system have pull up, but I just was like, why didn't they route out from underneath there? And I get like, so I walked away going, I'm not gonna buy that. Then I went through that show or that open mic through the night and I didn't use my tremolo at all. I didn't even put the bar on it. And that's why I'm like, maybe it's not that big a deal after all. Like, I just started thinking about it more and more. I'm like, you know what? I used to play decked guitars all the time. And I know it could float. You just have to raise up the thing and shim the neck. So I really wanted to, but maybe I just don't need it.
So I'm looking at one right now. Nice looking guitar. Roasted maple neck, obviously.
The Bird's Eye or the Flame?
I'm looking at the
because they have a couple different ones.
At Sweetwater, I'm looking at the Fire Mist Silver.
Yeah, I think that may be the one that the color I played.
Nice. It had a hard shell case. Like you said, it's an alder body. The medium frets. 22 frets. I don't know if that's going to bother you.
Yeah, 22 is fine. My other guitars have 22. The keys will last 24. It's the only one.
Yeah, for somebody like me that doesn't play a lot of fuzzes, I got one fuzz pedal. You gave it to me.
Yeah, I mean it.
I do like that you can adjust the what do you call it? By right there at the bottom of the neck.
Truss rod. Micro adjustments.
Truss rod,
yeah, it's kind of nice because you can adjust it without having to take tension off the guitar, which is a bonus.
Yep. It's a bonus. Are those made in California?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, music,
Nice.
anything with the Music Man.
And for
stamp
$2,000.
is in California. I mean,
$2,000.
it's on par with an Elite Strat for sure.
Yep.
I played the Elite just recently at Sweetwater, and I thought it was a cool guitar, but I was like, it's not $2,000 cool. And I kind of had the same reaction to this, but then I remember like it's premium woods, it's
Yeah, I would compare this to the Ibanez Prestige AZ.
Yeah, actually, that was what I was going to say. So I played a Prestige there too, and as much as I like the Prestige, I actually preferred the Cutlass. So, the Prestige. So here's the deal. So the Prestige is great for people who are more into the super strat side of things, going more like versatile, right? This is great for going from the strat side of things towards going more versatile. That's the way I see it. Like, this is for people who are more into the vintage ones that are kind of moving towards something a little bit more modern, which is kind of where I'm at. I mean, I grew up playing actual, just like dyed-in-the-wool Stratocasters. That was kind of my thing. And now I'm to the point in my playing where I'm like kind of done with them. My S500 is barely a Strat, in the sense that it's got like totally bonkers pickups in it. So I don't know. I may buy one. I don't know. I'm not buying one anytime soon. I don't have anywhere near the amount of cash for this. Plus, I also got offered a decent deal for a Vernon Reed Vela, so that's on the table as well, and that would be significantly less than this.
Ooh, yeah.
So I actually have to figure out what I'm doing. If I can find the right happy middle ground, then maybe I'll pick something out. But you know what? Like, I'm in no hurry. This is the first time where I've been kind of like shopping for a guitar that I'm like, there's not money burning a hole in my pocket. So it's going to have to be the right axe, and it's going to have to be, it's going to have the right feel or whatever, or I'll just buy another Kiesel.
So I got to play a Prestige. I liked it. I haven't been able to play a Cutlass yet. So
yeah, you're going to find the Prestige is more of like a super strat thing. It's got the bigger frets, like
the HSS, the bigger
the Prestige
frets.
probably fits me better, right? Like from a player standpoint, but I kind of want something a little bit different. I want something a little bit more vintage. I mean, I have the Kiesel if I want to go completely bonkers. And I have the S500. I'm debating on having that stainless steel fretted, which I know is going to cost me. It's going to be like $400 or $500, but
I mean, both of them have an incredible back. The back of the neck for the fret access is incredible. They both got the baked maple necks. They both got the only difference is that there's more. The 5-way switch is actually a 10-way switch as a result of the tap mode.
I'm gonna say something
on the
that's going to
Prestige.
shock you.
Yeah,
guess which one has better resale?
I'm sure the Music Man does
by a lot.
because the Music Man. Well, that's why I'd go
the AZ, the Prestige AZ value of it's like $1,200-$1,300. It's crazy how fast they drop. I saw in Guitar Center they had a bunch of used ones for like $1,300, $1,400.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I'd get a used one. There would be no question.
That's a $700 hit.
Yep. And the $2,500 one would be even tougher because it's probably coming around about.
And you know what? The $2,500 one's not even worth it. They're ugly. I haven't seen one with the top that I felt was worthy of $2,500.
I'm like, what are you?
It's a veneer. It's not even a real top.
A maple veneer on a guitar and charging an extra $400.
And they look ugly. Like that's what gets me. If you're gonna buy a veneer, it better be like 5A flame, like crazy book match. Otherwise, don't bother. Don't bother. Not on a $2,500 guitar. Sorry, that's ridiculous.
And it's like they're doing a veneer wrap of the whole guitar because it's on the front and back, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just doesn't.
They're doing a veneer on the front and the back. And you know what? They look like a photo flame. That's how bad they look. Which is why I'm like, this is the one thing I don't understand about why people are buying AZs. Like that, I get the flat color ones, right? And I get the Premier models, because those are cheap compared to the Prestige. But the Prestige, like if you want the flame one, it's $2,500 for flame. And it's of course it's a veneer because it's a flat top guitar. You're not going to put a big thick top on there. And it's a veneer, and they're not even highly figured. I mean, PRS SEs, I regularly see them with better tops than what you're going to get out of an AZ.
Well, they both got the same switching system. They both got the same Seymour Duncan pickups. I mean, I just don't understand. They've got the exact same necks. The necks are interchangeable. I don't get it.
Well, no, so the Prestige neck apparently has better rounded edges.
No, I'm looking at the Prestige. I'm talking about the Prestige and the Prestige there's a different Prestige. There's two Prestige.
Yeah, I know. There's that and then the Flame one. Okay, right. So that's what you're talking about.
That's what I mean. One's $2,000 and one's $2,500.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $24.99. $24.99.99. So you're looking at $2,500 for a Flame. That's it. That is what
it's not a Flame top though. It's a veneer.
That's what I mean.
It's an ugly one. There's no. I mean, it's even more absurd than Jim's making it seem.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it.
That's why I'm like having this argument because I'm like, Jim, you're absolutely correct, but it's actually worse. It's worse.
It's literally all they did was instead of going flat color. Okay, so I'm looking at the AZ 2204 and the AZ 2204 F.
Right.
F Flame. $1,999 versus $2,499 for the F. You are effed if you decide
you want to pay an extra $500 for ugly Flame.
It's ugly Flame. You should see the back of it. It's totally and Sweetwater gives you a true picture. They got the actual guitar.
You know what I hate?
It is a
Jim.
If I was Sweetwater, I'd go, oh my God, come on.
So they have like 4 artist models of this guitar. You know what I hate?
Yeah.
These 4 artist models exist. And they're basically the same guitar, and they really shouldn't be artist models. Do you know what they should be? Just regular old AZs with different model numbers.
But wait, there's more. So they have a scratch and dent. Usually the demos are about $250 off. They have a scratch and dent of the AZF, and it is $19.98. It's actually
it's $1 cheaper than buying the regular one. So they knock off $500 for a dent.
They knocked off $500. Let me see what the ding is. D. Can't see it. I literally can't see the ding. I'm waiting because usually they'll point it out. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, there it is. There is a minor scratch in the neck pocket.
Yeah, honestly, scratch and dent deals are great for guitars because you're going to beat them up anyway.
Oh my God.
If you actually take them out and play them, you're going to beat them up anyway.
This one actually would be worth the money because it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's a $500 hit for a scratch. Like, yes.
One minor scratch in the neck pocket. Yes, I'll take it. Matter of fact, I might buy that.
As we talk about this, I don't know. Tell us in the group, like, how do you feel about scratch and dents? Because that's a good discussion. I think scratch and dent is a great way to save a lot of money if it's not structural. Online retailers are getting real good about telling you what the scratch and dent actually means on the product you're purchasing. I know Sweetwater like takes little bitty photos and they have a little arrow that shows you what and some of their flaws are like, that's a speck of dust. That's not a flaw. You guys are nuts. And I bought some scratch and dent stuff from Sweetwater where I like look at it afterwards, pedals and that thing.
And you're like, where is that dent? Scratch?
Like, what? So digging through my Facebook here because we had a question from John Bott and I wanted to read it in his words. And John's been a supporter of the show for quite a while, so I wanted to make sure we addressed it on the show because I didn't address it in the group for a reason. I think this is good enough material to actually talk to people. So, Jim, you ever sold a guitar online? I don't think you have, right?
Online? Yeah.
You've definitely seen some guitars arrive.
I've sold them online, but I've never shipped one.
Yeah. Oh, I've shipped a bunch. So, what he asks is, you tops for the show. You sold pedals on Reverb, and you want to step it up a notch. So now it's time to sell a guitar on Reverb domestically. First off, always make sure that when you list on Reverb that you're not shipping internationally unless you want to ship internationally. Now,
Right.
I have shipped internationally, but I try to ship internationally via like a courier. So what I want to do is send it to somebody who's then going to ship it overseas. And there are people that actually do this as a business for them.
Right.
So, but I will make it very clear, like I'm only going to ship domestically. So I can't stress that enough.
Yep.
Second thing on Reverb, if you don't want hassles, use the sold as is and then describe the item accurately. So make sure you try to get everything in there. I sold that horrible Ibanez that I got. I sold that and I described everything and they didn't even ask me one thing on the other end. Like they weren't like, oh, this wasn't described or anything. I didn't give them any leeway. I took like 40 pictures of the guitar. I literally wrote like, 1,000 or 2,000 word description.
I definitely want to speak to that 40 pictures of the guitar thing.
It's not just 40 pictures, but it's 40 good pictures. And you need to like call things out if they're important. So you might have to do some Photoshop if you got a piece of junk that you're trying to sell. But yes, that can save your bacon, the as is thing, as long as you describe things properly. What's up?
You said in a Photoshop.
No, I mean like to put arrows and stuff to describe things, not Photoshop it to like make it look better or like make the guitar look prettier than it was. That's the complete opposite of what I want you to do.
Reach out to your Sweetwater rep and see if you can get some of them little stickers that have like the arrow and the little inch.
Yeah, actually the best thing you could possibly do is when you're putting together your photographs is to actually make the guitar look worse when you're doing an as-is sale, because then when they get it, they'll feel better about it. You know what I mean? So if you got to like adjust lighting and stuff to make sure that all the flaws are visible, you definitely want to do that. You want to make sure they're visible in the photos. You want to accurately describe them. I've even gone so far as to like put a little letter down in the corner that says like A, this is what A is, in my description so that they can follow along. Because Reverb doesn't have any facility to attach like a description to a picture, which would be kind of nice. So they go back down through here. That's step one. Before you even list stuff, like you have to understand when you get into guitars, people get really, really crazy about like things like fret wear and, people go nuts about scratches and dings and like pick scratches from like where you actually played it. If you say used, you tell people that you actually played this thing. Like make it very clear that, it's not used in the sense that you brought it home from the store and then hung it on the wall. You need to accurately describe the item, because there will be people that are like, this is way more used than any of my guitars are. It's like, well, that's because you only play once a year, you jerk. So just make sure you're doing that stuff. Now, the hard part and the thing that scares the crap out of people, Jim, and you know this because you just said it yourself. You've never shipped a guitar, right? It's a pain in the ass.
Yep.
I'm not remiss in saying that. To ship a guitar, a couple things you got to keep in mind. The strings cannot touch the frets during shipping. So what I would recommend you do is you take some newspaper or regular old paper and you make a shield and you wrap the strings with it. I know a lot of people will say, just put it on the neck. No, because it'll move during shipping. You want to wrap the strings with it and you want to tape the back and you want to tape it in place so that it won't slide up and down the neck, and it'll keep the strings from impacting both the frets and the pickups. So you're going to wrap the strings all the way down the body. And the reason for that is if the guitar has any pressure, like the box gets compressed or anything like that, or the neck is bent backwards for whatever reason, if those strings are rubbing against the frets, you'll wear divots while it's in transit, and you can ruin a guitar doing that. The other thing is this goes back and forth. People talk about lowering tension. I always do detune the guitars. Just because I don't want anything happening that's going to cause the neck to break or the headstock to break in transit. I just shipped my first Gibson a couple weeks ago, and it went in a hard case, and then it had the original like gig bag that came with it. Also went in the box with it on one side, and then I lined the entire back side of that box with bubble wrap. The critical thing is when you're packing your guitar in a box, you need to stuff that thing tight because you don't want the guitar to move inside the box. So the shake test is and I know Reverb talks about that. The shake test is critical. If you shake that guitar and it's moving, it's going to arrive damaged. It will. The other thing is you don't want to, like the headstock, read up on shipping Gibson guitars because there's a bunch of schools of thought on how you do that. The headstock is usually the thing that breaks the most. What I did was I wrapped inside the case, alongside the tuners, I put inserts with, bubble wrap wrapped around them so that it would hold the neck so it wouldn't shift left or right. And then I actually put a fine layer of bubble wrap right over where the neck would break if it was a headstock break, and actually put some cardboard to reinforce it so that the neck wouldn't move in transit and that area was properly supported. So I did that on both the top and the bottom to make sure that it was not going to take undue stress. I have heard people say doing that can actually cause a headstock break, but because I did it with bubble wrap, I was very careful about how I did it. The other thing is, when you're using nitro finishes, do not touch bubble wrap directly to the nitro, because it can react with that nitro finish and it can ruin the guitar. Again, another situation you don't want to deal with when shipping domestically. So I would I know a lot of people recommend using like newspaper as packing material inside the case. That's fine. Just remember that UPS has rules on what you can use as packing material. I don't know if they apply to outside of the case or not. So that's something you want to check with UPS if you're going to ship via UPS. I highly recommend shipping with a carrier like UPS or FedEx over the Postal Service, because the Postal Service is notorious for losing packages and damaging things and taking 30 days to file or to follow up on your claims. I have had situations where I've literally had to call up the Postal Service and yell at them to get them to do anything about problems. So, with a, if I shipped my Gibson, it was $1,000 guitar. Like, the last thing I want to do is call up the UPS or USPS and start yelling at them and going, where's my package? Kind of deal in transit. It can be pretty ugly. You can have those problems.
You should be able to find your package yourself.
Right. You can have the same problems with UPS and FedEx, but I've had less of them. I've heard that FedEx for bigger packages is better because FedEx doesn't handle as many big packages. They just don't. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you've got something high value and they're willing to pay for it, I would highly recommend it. So just, keep those things in mind. That's the main thing, is like, make sure the thing isn't, that there's nothing that's going to damage the guitar in transit. Like, if you have any questions about that, ask around. Make sure you have an appropriate box. Don't ship it in a gig bag like that guy did to me. What a jerk. And then he filled it up with stuff that definitely would not have been kosher had I had to make an insurance claim, which he probably didn't even show the guitar anyway. I would highly recommend, if you're going to sell on Reverb, use their shipping labels. They're 50% cheaper in most cases, and they include insurance. And they will back you. You have no seller protection or buyer protection if you don't use their shipping. So I would highly recommend you use their shipping. That means that your buyer is going to have to sign for it. And if they don't like that, I always make it clear to them at time of sale, look, this is going via UPS label from Reverb. You will have to sign for this package. And if they say no, then I refund them their money and move on.
Okay.
So that's the main thing. How to estimate shipping cost. You get a feel for it. A guitar with a hard case is going to be $60 coast to coast. You're on the East Coast, John. I don't know you're going to pay a little bit more. You're going to pay $70 to ship to Seattle or California, I would think, for a guitar with a hard case. And if anything you add additional to the box is going to increase that. And if you're just shipping a guitar in a gig bag, no hard case, you're probably just subtract $10, $12. I mean, it honestly is very pricey to ship a guitar now. Even using Reverb, if you're going to insure it, you're going to pay $50 at minimum. With a box to most places. If it's like a neighboring state, I'm usually like 35, but most of your shipping ends up not being a neighboring state. And of course, insurance, that's definitely gonna be handled by Reverb if you do it through them, and I would highly recommend that. Otherwise, you got to pay for it. Then you're looking at $100. So that's why I highly recommend using them. They have bulk discount because they use their UPS account. That's basically what happens. UPS, FedEx, or USPS. And when you do a quote through them, you basically pack up the guitar, go on their site, and enter your dimensions, your weight, and it will tell you what it's going to cost. And you can buy the label at time of sale. So they'll help you. Like you can talk to your reverb people via the chat function, and they'll walk you through that process. But you don't have to wait until the sale is done to get a quote. You can go to them and you can ask for it, and they can help you out. So that's critical. In fact, we have some new show listeners, one of which is actually looking at a guitar that I'm selling right now. And he is requesting a quote, and I'm trying to get some time together to put that together for him for shipping. I'm probably just going to end up balking and just give him the lower price, to be honest, because I just have not had the time to sit down and do it. But yeah, I mean, don't be afraid of it. Like that's the main thing here is anybody can ship guitars. You just have to know what you're doing and pack it bomb proof. It's actually easier to ship amps, in my opinion, except for the tubes. So, I've shipped pretty much anything guitar related, mixers and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. I've never been burned, but it's because I really work hard on making sure stuff is packed properly. And almost everything I see on the internet that somebody's posting, like here's a picture of a guitar that's been completely destroyed. When they show the packaging, I'm like, well, there's why. So just, protect yourself. Remember that, the UPS allegedly drops things 20 feet down a conveyor belt, and you have to pack for that. So,
yeah,
Jim, we all know the airlines mishandle stuff all the time, right? Like that's kind of a thing and everybody knows that. But
yeah,
I don't know anybody who's like personally know anybody who's ever had their stuff damaged by the airlines. But I have seen people have their stuff thrown on the baggage claim and stuff like that, or out by where they're loading up the bags. And I think, if a guitar's in a hard case, you're really going to have to huck it pretty hard, or it's going to have to be a really bad case to damage a guitar. And nowadays, the cases are getting so good that that's almost nigh on impossible. If you have an SKD or something like that, like a true flight case, you should be fine for doing that kind of thing. If you ship a guitar in a flight case, and it should be fine when it gets to the other end, unless there's been some serious abuse, and that's what insurance is for. So,
yep.
You have anything to add to this? I know I've just rambled for like 20 minutes. That's what I do.
No, because I've never shipped a guitar. I've had them shipped to me, and they came in good. Gibson puts that plastic thing under the fret, or under the strings, so they don't bang around the wires. So, as long as you, like you said, you wrap them up, take a little tension off, tune it to E flat.
Oh, I'd completely slack them basically, because the difference between E flat and E is probably 10 pounds worth of tension. It's almost nothing.
Yeah.
But you probably don't have to go like more than an octave.
Yeah, no, you don't have to go that far. It's
not that bad. Would be half as much tension, right? I think.
I don't know if the tension plays that rule. Might be.
I would think. I just mathematically. Correct me if I'm wrong in the group. I would be highly interested in that answer because of the physics, but
I don't know if you could literally tune an octave down.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know if you could tune the low E to a low E.
You can, but it's just going to be like when you pick it's going to go.
It would flap around like.
You'd have to pick it. You'd have to pick it the lightest you possibly could to get it to sound as a low E. But
I wanted to get to that picture thing. So, I look at these used guitars online, and this is what scares the hell out of me.
This is the last topic, right?
And I know, it kind of flows into your topic, really. Why do people take one picture of a guitar and then go, I want $2,000 for this guitar?
You want me to tell you?
And here's one blurry picture from 7 feet away.
I'll tell you the honest answer. That's the picture they took when they first got it. And it was on their phone, and they decided they want to list it, and so they throw it up there with that picture. Yeah. They don't. That's not what the guitar even looks like now.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, no.
I've seen. There was a story on Harmony Central about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's probably longer than that now. I'm dating myself. It's probably 9 years ago. And somebody had received a guitar. They showed the listing. It was an eBay sale. and the guitar looked pristine, new, and when they got it, it had stickers all over it, and they're like, "This is not the guitar that was pictured." But a couple of people in the thing were like, "No, that is the guitar that was pictured," but they added stickers to it, and now you've got to deal with their mess. Which that's about the worst thing you could do because it like the finish, the UV and all that. Yep. You're gonna have spots where the pictures were or the stickers were.
I do not understand anybody who sells a guitar with a sticker on it. I don't get it.
All right. Here's a theme. Oh yeah, and guitar companies do it too. My G&L has a little circular spot where the sticker was on it, and then of course it was in the shop and the UV and yeah. So now I have like a little white spot on it. The rest of the pick guard has turned kind of like a mint color. Hilarious. But yeah, that's like a whole thing. You know, Jim, I have an idea for a theme band though, right? So, you know, they did Racer X in the 80s, but I want to do like something similar, but I want to do it like, you know, call the band NASCAR or something like, or non-racist NASCAR, which is not even a thing.
Yeah. Does that even exist?
My brother and I grew up watching NASCAR. My brother's a huge NASCAR fan, and even he admits he's like, yeah, NASCAR's pretty racist. And so that's an inside joke between him and I. It's not necessarily.
NASCAR is.
I don't really believe that. I'm just saying like we've always had that joke between him and I, and so you know, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but yeah, it's always been a thing between him and I. We kind of tease each other about it. But yeah, so I want to do that, but I want to take stickers of like all the local shops that I like, and I want to take stickers of like all the parts that I modify on the guitar. So like I'd have like, you know, if I put Fishman's in it, it'd have like a Fishman sticker on it and stuff, like a NASCAR. So it would, yeah, of course it would be a cheap guitar, but it would kind of fit like my music and stuff because, you know, I tend to like those kind of hot rodded guitars and yeah,
right.
Think about it. And then the drummer would do the same thing, like on his drums, like on his bass drum, he would have like all the stickers and like maybe like a spray painted number logo or something like you'd see on a NASCAR. And then of course the bass player would do the same thing. So the whole idea would be we would all have this theme of like we're NASCAR people.
There's a guy locally who has a Fender Squire Strat with Keith Richards' picture on it. And Keith Richards' signature on it. He wants $3,000 for this freaking turd.
Did you see in 60 Cycle Hum? I think you're still a member of the group, right? Like, so 60 Cycle Hum group, somebody posted I think it was 60 Cycle Hum. They posted a guitar that said it was signed by Jim Morrison. Or no, it was Jim Morrison, Val Kilmer of the Doors. And they wanted like $3,000 or $4,000 for it. And I'm like, who wants a guitar signed by Val Kilmer? Like, that has nothing to do with guitar. Like, this is ridiculous.
I'm trying to find this.
It wasn't even like it was a Kramer Stratocaster copy too, which made it that much worse.
Well, first of all, I guess people probably in our group know Jim Morrison isn't exactly known for his guitar prowess.
Val Kilmer.
And Val Kilmer definitely wasn't known, and he didn't hold a guitar in the whole movie. What would this?
Never mind the fact that it was a guitar that didn't exist when the Doors were around.
Where would the value of this come from?
Stupidity.
How would you value something like that? Yeah. Well, you got people that I get it. They list stuff. Here's the thing. So they'll list stuff at the value that the let's say they saw it at Guitar Center, they saw it whatever. I'm going to put my guitar at the same price. This is the thing that people get that they don't get. They don't get from you. They get from Guitar Center. They don't get 45-day return policy. They don't get the ability to get a what is that ridiculous thing you can buy at Guitar Center.
To be honest with you, I think the Guitar Center prices on used stuff are probably better than if you were to go on Reverb.
Yeah, a lot of them.
I've had a lot better success and I've had people come to me and tell me like, I've seen your guitar over on there and it's, you know, cheaper over there. It's like, well, go buy it from them then. Like, honestly, like and I've told people like, you get a warranty from them. Like, why would you buy it from me? Right. I'm not a jerk when I sell stuff to people. I'm just not that guy. I'm the guy that sits there and says, okay, here's my guitar. And actually, the gentleman I'm talking to right now, he's looking at my blue S500, my Tribute, and I'm like, you know what? Honestly, like if you don't know whether you want a Tribute or a Strat, because he's looking at a Legacy too. I'm like, if you don't know which one you want, like these are really different products, and you need to decide for yourself. I can't make that decision for you. I can tell you why I like this one, but I can't tell you why you'll like this one. So, and I, you know what? I'm not going to steer somebody in the wrong direction. Like, make sure you know what you want, because I don't want you to overpay.
Exactly.
I just need to get I just need to get what I'm going to get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I need to make sure that I get what I want to get out of it. Because then I won't be able to sleep at night if I think about, oh man, I missed $50 on this or whatever. So
you wouldn't be able to sleep at night if you missed. I guess if you sold $100 item, maybe.
No, Jim. Like, I freak out about like little sums of money now. So it's my anxiety is getting pretty bad.
You're going crazy.
Yeah, starting to. I'm getting there. I'm getting there, man. Like, I'm working on it. Soon enough. At least my anxiety isn't leading me to anger. I mean, I didn't knock somebody's teeth out the other night, so that's good.
That's true. That's true. That's always a good thing that you didn't knock
somebody's
teeth out. Yeah, I
really didn't want to go to jail. I freaked out today. This is the last thing for you in the episode. It's not guitar related. I freaked out today because I got in the car and I was taking my daughter to dinner, my youngest, because my oldest went to eat with her mom, and I'm driving, and I'm like, oh, I don't have my wallet. Like, it just dawns on me, like, I don't have my wallet with me. I got a wad of cash in my pocket, so I know I can get dinner. I don't have my wallet with me. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, I'm only like 2 minutes from the house. I'll pick up food and I'll come back home. And
right.
I looked at my rearview mirror and there's a cop behind me. And I started having this, dude, I had a panic attack, like, so bad. I was like, I'm going to get pulled over and I'm not going to have my driver's license. And this is going to be a disaster. But
every time a cop gets behind me, I'm like,
right to the light,
man.
And then I made a right, and he didn't follow me, so I was like, yes.
I'm telling you right now, I always get that. Oh yeah, they're coming after. Every time I'm driving down the road, even if I'm going the speed limit, I'll look over.
If I have everything in line, it's not a big deal because I'm like, what's the worst that I get a ticket? But if I'm like, I don't know where my insurance card is, which is like 90% of the time, I'm like, uh-oh. Like, don't pull me over.
I'll tell you a true story. I don't know where my registration is. I haven't been able to find my registration.
Well, you got stickers.
In 2 years.
You got state stickers, right?
Yeah.
That's your registration. They don't ask for it in the state anymore.
So I got, oh no. So I got pulled over in Delaware driving to New York.
Yeah. If you're going across
and
state.
This guy pulls me over. I was not speeding. I get pulled over. Registration and, license, registration, insurance. No problem. I give him everything. I'm like, let me look for my registration, pretending, I'll just look it up. Okay. Comes back. Says, well, you want to know why I pulled you over?
Absolutely.
I wasn't speeding. So yeah, absolutely. He goes, well, I pulled you over because your light is out on your license in the back. I'm like, okay, I'll stop at the nearest Walmart to get a little thing. And he goes, nope, I have to cite you. And I also have to cite you because you didn't show me your registration.
Yeah. And that's a state thing.
I'm like, yeah, fuck you. And so I get home and I try to call there because you can. Yeah,
your state should be able to issue a new registration paperwork. You're supposed to get it every time you get a sticker.
There's the only way to talk to them about that ticket is to actually get a hold of these state cops. Delaware's only got, like 8 people in it, right? 9. And it's a pile of garbage state. Let's face it. It's a pile of garbage.
Jim just alienated 10% of our listenership.
Nobody wants to live there. Nobody wants to live there. Everybody hates it. What is it? Everybody's so poor.
Well, I know where Jim's retiring.
They got to steal $165 from Jim. Because, oh my God, we're going to go broke if we don't get $165 from Jim. Instead, we have to hide from him because I left several messages at their state trooper barracks there up by, what the hell's the name of the place? I know, Shithole, Delaware. And,
normally I'm the one that gets angry on the show.
Delaware can eat and bark at the moon. I now refuse to drive through Delaware. I drive all the way out through Western Virginia through DC, up through Pennsylvania, and skirt around Delaware. You can't even have taxes on my gas. Eat shit, Delaware. I hate you.
Hey, Jim, do you know what Delaware's claim to fame was?
That they have the Delaware
That they were
River.
the first state.
I just lost the other half.
What the hell, man?
I don't think we got a lot of supporters.
Anyway, so I've been David. And tonight we've been the Practical Guitarists.
I gotta go to
Trying
church.
to limit the damage.
Gotta say confession.